Hi guys, it's Julia at the Mother Ranch. We are starting this piece today. I hope you guys are excited. I am. So this is feathers in case you can't tell, with a little curved feather at the bottom. Somebody asked me that one day, so I thought I'd tell you. It's a feather that's rotated, right? It's rotated in air. So bear with me. This is new still, and as you can see, there's stuff in the background that ought not to be there, but we learn as we go. Okay, so I'm going to switch over to, let's see, which one am I on right now? Okay, so I'm on in a picture. That's good. And we'll get started. Okay, so first of all, you guys are going to get these two sheets. You get them in the frame here so you can see them. They will be in a PDF. You will print them off. This top one, as you can see, it says top here. And it also says right here, cut. So this is the line you're going to cut. I'm going to do that right now. And then you're going to tape this top one to the bottom one. It says right here, tape edge of top sheet to here. Just use some Scotch tape. I need my glasses. All right. Line it up and tape it down. And I'm just using little bits. You don't need to use an entire strip if you don't want to. Okay, that's what it should look like. And as you can see, there are not, it doesn't line up exactly perfectly. That's okay. We are going to be able to fix that. Hold on. Okay. All right, then you're going to take your carbon paper. Mine looks like this. As I said earlier, it's from probably, what do you think that typewriter's from? The 70s probably, maybe the 80s. It's old. You're going to take two sheets. Depending on how you got your carbon paper, it might be one sheet, but it needs to be big enough to cover that whole thing. And your pre-cut watercolor paper. So if you haven't cut your watercolor paper yet, then you need to go back on YouTube and look up Julia McMonagle, MacMonagle, and look at the little short video of how to cut your paper. This paper comes in a really big sheet. It's 22 by 30, I think, and it needs to be cut in quarters. All right, but if you've already done that, then we're good to go. Dirt. All right, so you're going to lay down your watercolor paper. You're going to lay down your carbon paper. Now, if you look on your carbon paper, you'll be able to tell. It looks like everything that everybody's brought to class up to this point has been really noticeably one side works and one side doesn't. Mine isn't like that. So, and I don't know if yours will be or not. So you need to look at your paper, and you can see, I hope, I've done a lot of work with this paper, so it's got a lot of little marks on it. The carbon paper, the carbon side is just noticeable. I don't know how to explain it. If you aren't sure which side goes down, then do a little test. Use a piece of printer paper or whatever and test it and see. All right, so line it up on the top. And the bottom. So you can also tape this whole thing down to your, what am I trying to say? Your desktop or your work surface, whatever it may be. So when I do it, I line it up at the top, line it up at the bottom, and line it up on one side. This side is going to be hanging out, if you look. See, it goes over the edge. Then you take your other one, do the same. Line it up. For me, I'm going to line it up the bottom and this left side over here. You're going to get out one of your pencils. And I'm going to sharpen mine, so it's going to make a noise. Okay. So if you've taped it down, that's fine. If not, you're just going to hold it down, okay? And I'm starting over here on this side. Some people are going to want to be super precise. That's okay. And some people are going to just give it the general feel. That's okay too. It doesn't really matter. It depends on your personality. For me, I mean, I hand drew these things originally, and I'm not going to be super precise about it. Try not to panic. You should be following along, so just don't pay any attention to what I'm doing. All right. You're just going to go somewhat over those lines. You see what I'm doing? Yes. This is going to transfer this image onto your watercolor paper. Whoops, that's a little bit too sharp of a pencil. It was trying to tear through all of this. When you get down to here and it's not matched up, it's okay. You're just going to draw right through it. See that little line right there? Just draw right through it. It's no big deal. This is not a precise thing that we're working on, really. We're going to paint over this whole image. Feel free to pause me whenever you need to work on your image. Okay. These lines in the middle are really for guidelines later. They aren't important. The shape of them are somewhat important. All right, there's the first one. Here's a little curvy one. I've done several of these classes in person now, having a lot of fun with that. Wish you guys were here for that, but I'm glad you're here on the online version. Please excuse the sound of voices below me. My husband is either on a conference call or helping our son with, we're homeschooling now. So they're doing math down there possibly. All right, there's the next one. You just need a center line through here and these guidelines for later. So you don't need this double line, you just need a center line just to know where the middle of your feather is. All right, there's the second one, and here comes the third one. Again, you can see I'm not, all this is going to be covered by paint. So if you need to be precise, then do. Here we go to an edge that these two didn't match up. Put in another little jiggy-jaggy spot. My technical terms, don't you know? Okay. Okay, almost done. these two aren't going to line up exactly, that's okay. You really only need a center line to the top for when you're painting next. This is supposed to be fun and easy, not scary and overwhelming. It's okay if it's not perfect. We all have issues with perfection. I do too. And so as you're working on this, check that with yourself. Are you feeling like, oh, it's not going to be perfect? It's okay. As a matter of fact, it's good that it's not perfect. None of us are. All right, so that is it. Double check. Oh, there it is. All right. You are no longer going to have that scary blank white sheet. I'm just going to toss this over here. There we go. Okay, you're done with your pencil. Put that away. The next step is a watercolor wash. Now, we aren't using watercolor. Can I take these off? Yeah, that'd be better. We aren't using watercolor. We are using craft paint. So of whatever brand. This one is, here, I'll stick it down underneath. There we go. That's a Martha Stewart. This is that Ceramcoat. I've got Folk Art. Anita's all-purpose acrylic. So I've got lots of different types. What's this one? This one's called Plaid. Oh, Apple Barrel. All right, so lots of different types. There is no specific type you need, as long as you have that kind. If you happen to have watercolors and you're familiar with doing watercolors, then great, do that. Use those types of paints. I chose these paints on purpose for me when I was first starting this process because I wanted to think it doesn't matter, right? I just wanted to do it for fun. I didn't want to do any sort of, I have to do it this way, I have to do it that way. I've been an artist for many, many years, and those rules at this point in my life were holding me back. And so I decided I wasn't going to do it that way. I just wanted to just play. That's what I was doing. I was just playing. So, I don't know, what am I? There we go. Okay. So the next piece is to choose a few colors that you like. These are going to go in a wash on the back. Let's look at that original again so you can see. Now here's the original. And if you look, try to look past these feathers and all the words. See how it's got up here, it's got darker blue and lighter blue, and here's some dark and light. A little smidge of pinky purple over here. This is just the background. This stuff here, darker, a little bit lighter over here. A little purple, more purple up here. So we're going to create, you can see that edge right there. That little spot right there. So we're going to create the background. And if you look at this, you know that the majority of the background is going to be covered with paint and words and dots and fun things, right? So don't worry about too much about what this is going to look like in the back. All right. Here is another one that I've worked on with another class. You see that background? Kind of splashy and fun and yellow and blue and purples, and these white ones were added afterwards. We're just looking at just this part that looks like that. See how it is in there? I'll show you how to make that. Okay? So choose 3 colors that you like. I think I'm going to do some blue. Here's the blue I'm going to choose. And not sure what I'm going to use today. Maybe that. What is that? Razzleberry, it says. Is that it? Maybe. Could be. So the next thing you're going to do is pull out. So I decided to buy some smaller paper plates. These are like, they're a little bigger than dessert size, but smaller paper plates because in this process, in this next step, I use 2 or 3 of them to get this look. All right, I'm going to move this out of the way. You are going to put, all right, you're going to put, shake that up. I need my glasses back. So I hope that you are feeling brave enough and you choose the colors that you like best. Maybe you don't like razzleberry. Maybe you don't like red or raspberry, whatever this color is. Maybe you're not a big fan of blue. Choose the colors, 3 colors that you think are pretty together. If they don't go well together when you have it on there, then we're going to be painting over the majority of it anyway. The only thing I'd be careful of is mixing something like, let me find something, green and red, for instance. Green and red, when they're mixed together, it makes brown. So your painting will look a little muddy. If brown is what you're going for, awesome. What else? Purple and yellow. They sometimes can make a brown. It's kind of a pale thing. Whatever we're doing is going to be very pale anyway, but yeah, that's something to be aware of. All right, so you're going to put about a teaspoon of this. It's kind of a pretty color. It's almost a hot pink, but not quite. A teaspoon of that. I'm still not sure about this color. Maybe a lighter one. Blue Lagoon. Let's try Blue Lagoon. Shake it up because it usually needs it. Teaspoon of that. Oops. Well, that's a little bit more than a teaspoon, but that's all right. And maybe a little bit of yellow. This is kind of a pale yellow. I'll put these where you guys can see them. All right, so those 3 colors. You can add water to your paint a couple different ways. I've decided to repurpose an old shampoo bottle because it's easier, and I'm doing a lot of this now. So another way is to use your big soft brushes that was on your list. You can use a sponge. And you can take your water container, and you can't see this. Let's see, move it over here. There we go. And get your paintbrush wet and put it in like that. That's an easy way to do it if you don't have any containers to put water in. Okay, that's one way. And I've done it that way for years. And I finally decided, you know what I really would like? It's little things in life. I really want just a little container. Duh. So I made myself one. All right, you're going to need about 3 tablespoons of water. Geez, that's going to splash. What I probably really need is a pump one. That would be kind of nice. All right. And you can use anything to stir, right? I use, whoops, you can never tell which camera I need to be looking at. I've got the one that's underneath here, hi, and the one that's on my computer. So a palette knife, you can use your palette knife. You can use a craft stick. For years and years, I used the end of a paintbrush. However you need to do it. I'm going to keep some paper towels close with me because I'm going to wipe my palette knife off. And you're just going to stir this up. You're going to mix it so the paint becomes very liquidy. And this is going to mimic our watercolor. We're going to use this paint for all the parts, this craft paint, for all the parts that we're doing here because it is easily accessible, cheap, easy to use, has lots of different ways you can use it. And honestly, I think it just feels less scary, especially for people who are just starting out. And I think art has enough fear to it often. Often people are very scared of it. Mine is math. I have a math thing. And that's how I'm trying to remember this when I'm teaching it is that a lot of people have the same fear. I'll just mix this up. Same fear around art that I do around math. I get kind of shaky. I have the nervous giggles, and my first reaction is to run. Because I didn't have anybody teaching me well. You know, they tried, but when frustration comes out to somebody who is pretty sensitive to other people's emotions, and I picked up on that, and I thought, oh God, I'm getting it wrong, and now they're upset, and oh no. So now I've got math anxiety. All right, mix it up as well as you can. Sometimes there's going to be, this one has some little lumps, little tiny spots, so I'm just kind of squashing them. Okay, there's that one. This one's kind of all over the place. I'm going to push it down here with the water. So one of my goals, oh, there's a little chunk of paint there. I'm going to move that out because it didn't want to mix at all. I think it was like a little dried spot. So one of my goals is to help you overcome some of that fear, should you have it. And I think you guys are very brave for joining in a class that you're not even fully sure what exactly is this all about. I think that's pretty amazing. All right, so there's the 3 colors that I have chosen. Okay, toss that. Oh, that still has a little bit of paint on it. All right, put this back in place, moving all the colors out of the way. And the next step, before we go any further, I think I'll move this over here. The next step for you to do is to go in your kitchen, pause this video, go in your kitchen, all right, and turn on your oven to about 150, whatever your low setting is. All ovens are different, it seems. So mine is about 150, maybe 175. So turn that on and come right back. All right, so I'm going to take this brush. I've got several. This is a great big fat one. I think I told you guys to get a 2-inch, maybe you got a set. Either way, it's the soft brush. And you're going to dip it in your clean water. If you don't have clean water, make sure you go and get some. Go rinse yours out and start fresh. And you're going to just dip it in there and get it really wet. You're not going to do this. You're not going to try to dry it off. The point is we're going to cover our paper with this water. Okay, all over the entire image. Once I get it basically covered, I go back and forth over it this way. And vertically, just to make sure it's fully, completely covered. If you find dog hairs, which you would if you were at my house, pull them off. Okay, got that part done. All right, I don't typically use paint on these brushes just because I like to keep them clean for watercolor washes. All right, then the next thing you're going to do is take your brush. I believe you guys have a tin that looks kind of like this. Whatever bigger brush you have. It doesn't have to be this one, but something like that. Get out some more paper towels. and choose the color that you want to dominate this with. So, or you want the color to dominate. You are going to, because I live in Colorado, my paper dries quickly. If you live in a dry area, be aware. I want my colors to flow, and they won't flow if your paper isn't wet. All right, I'll hold that down. Okay, so, all right, so the color you would like to shine through most of it, the brightest one, the one that you're happiest with maybe. I guess I'm gonna go with yellow, and it may change. I may decide, oh, I want a little more red over here. You're just gonna cover your, wherever you want. It can be anything. It can be angled, it can be circles, it can be, really, it's all gonna meld anyway. So it's not a big deal about the way your brush strokes are gonna look, okay? All right, I'm gonna rinse. This is a pretty pale yellow, isn't it? I think I'm gonna do this raspberry color up here in the corner. I don't know what I'm gonna think about it. There we go. Give it a shake if you can, if you want to. Remember, anything that's on the feathers is going to disappear, okay? Because it'll be under paint. I like how it's doing this. See that? It's fun to see it. Fun to see it spread. It's one of my favorite things. I'll put some blue down here. Just play with it a little bit. There's a lot of color pooling down here, so I'm going to suck some of that up. There we go. I like how these two colors are mixing right there. They're kind of turning into a little bit of a purple. And as you know, as you probably know, red and blue will make a purple. Okay, I'm not sure how I want it to be, but that's okay because we are playing. We're playing. And the majority of this will be covered up. This is just a layer, right? It's just a layer. All right. All right, I'm going to pause and I'm going to go put this in the oven. Should take about 5 minutes, and then we'll be ready to go on the next stage. All right, so while that's drying, your next thing you do is pick up all of your paper plates with paint. I'm not going to be using this paint like this anymore. And throw those away and rinse out your water container and your brush and get some fresh water in there. And that is the next step. All right, pausing again so I can go get my paint or my art out of the oven. Okay, so you've thrown away your paper plates. You've gotten yourself fresh water for your paintbrush, maybe water for you too. and you've got your paper that is now dry. Typically, I don't know if you can see it, let me turn it on its side. Yeah, there we go. Typically it curves the opposite way when it dries. So take that and gently, this is very stiff paper, but you don't want to crack it in half. So take that and gently get it to bend back the other way a little bit. That was one of the comments that people had in the local class, was that they had a hard time dealing with the paper once it was curved. So do this a couple times. Another way of dealing with this would be to tape it down with maybe some painter's tape, if you'd like. For me, it doesn't bother me, so I don't really worry about it. I try to get it as flat as I can and I continue on. But if it's bothering you, then tape it. I like to work to the edges, and so tape would get in my way. All right. That's fairly flat. See that? Not too bad. So if you're working on 140-pound paper, I know some of you said you had some of that. This is why I'm choosing the 300-pound paper, is because it's so much more stiff. The 140-pound paper, watercolor paper, is going to really buckle. But if you're using that, then I'm sure you will find a way to work through it. Okay, next step. So we are going to be putting some, let's see, hold on just a second. So we're going to be choosing another 3 colors. Maybe it's 2, definitely 2 or 3. And we're going to be putting them in our palette. So 2 or 3 colors that you like, that you feel will go with the colors that you've chosen here. It's all about you, not about me. So for me, I'm going to choose probably a blue, probably a purple. Maybe I'll do this one in a really, really pale blue. Thinking about that, how I want it to look. All right, let's see. I've got this purple, possibly. I think I'm going to do some white, because I usually like to mix the white and whatever darker color I have. And let's see, maybe a blue. You choose your colors. I will choose mine. And we'll see what we go. Okay. All right, so I'm going to show you. Oh, I don't have my thing on. Pooh. Oh, hopefully you could have heard all that. All right, just in case, choose 3 colors, just in case you didn't hear all that because I didn't have my microphone on. It annoys me when I get things like that, miss those little things. Okay, choose 3 colors that you like that will go with your painting, that you feel will go with your painting, whatever makes you happy. It's not about my colors, it's about yours and how you feel about them. I'm going to do a purple, I'm going to do a blue, I'm going to do a white. I think there might be probably a little bit of this sunflower, kind of a pale yellow that's a little bit tannish. I think that's going to go in there as well. You're going to put your colors, glasses back on, your colors on your little palette, so which is your paper plates. I have some new paint, so they all usually come with some sort of little, I don't know, protective wrapping. What is that thing called? Okay. About that much. Probably the same as what you did before. Probably about a teaspoon, maybe. I'm thinking that I could use a little music right now in those in-between times when I'm being quiet. You guys let me know after you watch this video what you think about that. Would that be a good thing? Okay, so this is where these little guidelines are going to come into play. That's the shape you're going to be making with your paintbrush. Now it just kind of depends on you, what you like, as far as what kind of paintbrush you might use. I have a whole entire, well, this is a, let me pull it out here, a third of my paintbrushes. I've got a bunch more. So I have a lot of options. I've asked you to get something that looks like that, right? Something that's kind of long and pointy. If you got a set of paintbrushes and there's all kinds that come in it, this is a fair amount to paint. And so you might be overwhelmed with using this little tiny brush. And it might feel like, oh my God, I'm never going to get it done. That's fine. You can use a bigger brush. As a matter of fact, if you really wanted to, you could use your number 10 filbert that you said that I had you get. So that would be, if you did that, you would use that on the side, not this way, right? But instead on its edge, like that, okay? So whatever you need. I'm gonna try using, get out some more paper towels. I always have to have some paper towels near me because I like to blot. All right. So for me, I like to get my paintbrushes wet first. It seems to keep the length or the life of the paintbrush a little bit longer. I don't know exactly why that is, but it does seem to work. So I get my paintbrush wet first. I'm going to use this little bit paint. I'm going to try all these paintbrushes for you so you can kind of see the differences and see what you might like better. So this is that bigger one of these three. I'm going to use this one here. All right, I think, not sure what color this feather is again. Oh, I forgot, I'm going to start on this side. So if you're right-handed, you're going to start on the left side. That way you can cross over and your arm won't smear anything that's over here. So this feather over here, I believe, is going to be blue. I'm going to move this over just a little bit so you guys can see. And that's a fair amount of paint on there. Do you see that? I'm not holding back here. It's a lot of paint. You're going to be covering a fair amount of space. And so as you go, you'll probably be a little bit more careful with your paint in the beginning, but feel free to just get it on there. This layer that we're putting on these feathers right now is likely just a bottom layer. There's probably going to be a few more things that go on top. And so again, try not to panic. If it doesn't look exactly right, you're going to be putting more paint on top of it. Okay. All right, so I've got my paint on there. And like I said, this is the shape you're going to follow right here. This little curvy shape. All right, can you see that? Yes. So I'm going to push down, and pushing down spreads the bristles out. And when I get towards the end over here, I'm going to lift up. You can see that here. I even twist it a little bit. So that paint is not, for me, is not liquidy enough. So I'm going to add a couple drops of water to that and mix that up because it's just a little too gloppy. It's a little too thick for me. We'll see if that is any better. It might need to be even thinner. That was a fair amount of paint and it still ended up being very thick here and very thin there. Nope, a little bit more. A couple more drops of paint or water to your paint. You know, it's interesting. Some paint comes out of the bottle. I mean, see that white? I don't know if you can see that white. That white there is pretty thin. And you can tell which ones are thinner and which ones are thicker. This purple one is pretty thick. It's kind of sticking up like a very fresh egg, an egg yolk. All right, let's try this again. There we go, that's a better. So continuing to make that shape, that curved shape, will give it, I think, a better look. Maybe you don't. So the reason I tend to use the smaller brushes is because when I get to this end part, these bigger brushes have a hard time making the little kind of feathery ends that I like. However, it really does lay down a lot of paint, and that's pretty cool. I'm going to add some white in there too, because I like it. Maybe you want your feathers to be all one color. That's okay too. All right. So that's one type of paintbrush. The type of paintbrush I typically use is this smaller one. It's not very large, it's pretty thin. It's a little long, and I like that. I'm going to take some of this blue, and a little bit of that white, and I'll work down here so you can see what that's like. So it's a much smaller area that you're covering, but it has a little more control because of that, because it's a smaller brush. So, and I'm able to make those tips there, the tips of the feather, a little bit easier. It's a little bit easier for me. So I often use that. I'd say that's the majority of the thing that I use in most of these paintings is this size brush. It's just got a nice, I just like it. But if you've got some options, then play around with it a little bit and see what you like best. So I'm going to go back to this part up here and add a little bit more feathery ends on it. Okay. All right. That's another option. Then I think I'm not going to do this one. All right. Then there's the big filbert. If you feel like, oh, that's too much to cover. Oh my God, I can't stand it. Let's see what the filbert does. I would imagine, my guess is that we're going to have to go back. I'm going to have to go back and straighten up those tips for myself because I don't think I'm going to like the way this looks. But let's give it a try. It does have a narrow edge. Whoops, a narrow edge. So it might work. Okay, can you see that? Yes. Oh, I don't know. That's not too bad. Yeah, that might work just fine. Remember to keep that same shape as here. This is going to give, this is interesting. I'm surprised. I wouldn't have thought that I would have liked it, but I do. And that's kind of fun because I learned something new. It gives a different feel to the edges. It's more wispy, and that might be kind of fun. I think I like that. Let's try that for a while and just see how that goes. I think I'm going to use the smaller brush down here where, yeah, on this blue feather where this other feather overlaps it. Definitely makes it go quicker if you use this brush. So if you are somebody who is a little impatient, feels like, oh, dear God, I don't want to futz with this too much, then this might be the brush for you. I'm going to use just a little bit of that yellow, just a smidge. You have to be careful because I don't want the feather to turn green. And yellow and blue will do that. Okay. Interesting. Well, yay. All right, I'm going to rinse that out. I'm going to go back to this little brush here on the bottom. These are those little fuzzy feathers at the bottom of a feather. So this part, you can see, let me pull this up just a little bit, see if that helps. I don't know if it's going to have a hard time focusing on that, maybe not. Let me double check something and make sure autofocus is off. Okay. All right, so this part down here has these little spots that need to be filled in because this feather is laying on top. Okay. So I'll give that just a little bit of attention. Okay. It's kind of a peacock color down here at the bottom. It's kind of fun. All right. I'm going to go back down to this side of this feather. Let me pull that down a little bit so you guys can see it. And I'm going to go back to that big filbert brush. Give it a try. See what you guys think. See if you like it that way. Okay. Add a little bit of white. Using that same shape. That's what these lines are for. They're just guidelines to help you know what shape to make with your paintbrush. And again, if you push down in the beginning part of the stroke, it's a thicker stroke, and lift up towards the end and it's a thinner stroke. I've had a lot of comments about, I can't get my hands to do what your hands are doing. And all I can say about that is it's practice. So, been doing it for a long time, painting for a long time. And so my hands look different. I'm going to go back to this area down here because this is where that feather is going to overlap. Add a little bit more dark bits. Try to follow those, at this point, imaginary lines, but your other paint strokes should show you about what that looks like. And I don't know if you guys can tell on this one, but there's a fair amount of paint in the middle. That's where those brush strokes started, and so the paint is thicker there. It's no big deal. It's okay, doesn't matter. Gives it some dimension. You might like it. Okay. Okay. That's going to do it for that feather for right now. We may decide to go back and add other color or decoration to it. Decoration for sure. But we may decide to go back and add other color to it. And that's another step. All right. So I can already tell that that one is going to be very gloppy. Very, very thick. So I'm going to add water to that because I want to thin that out. I just don't like the way it flows onto the paper. It doesn't flow onto the paper very well. If you like that thicker feel, then by all means you keep it just the way you like it. Okay. All right, I'm going to do purple on this feather here. But this is next in line. It's funny, I always want to go to this feather. I've done this a few times. You know, I did the original piece, but now I've had several classes teaching it. And so, yeah, I feel like I've done 1,000 of these feathers at this point. And I automatically want to go to this one. I don't know, maybe it's because it's bigger. I really don't know why. But I've already mixed that purple, and now I'm like, oh darn, I need to work on this one next because it's in that order. I don't want to smear this. So that feather here, I believe, is going to be probably, you know, I'm kind of liking that yellow that it is, so maybe I'll use yellow and white with just a smidge of blue in there. I'll try this bigger brush and see what I think. Okay. All right, what did I say? Yellow and white with a little bit of blue. This is going to take a little, for me, it's going to take a little bit more paint. My yellow appears to be pretty translucent. So I'm going to put some thicker strokes on there. Because right now I can see the tracing underneath it. Can you see that? Yeah, you can see the tracing underneath it. And I can already tell you I'm not particularly thrilled about this yellow color. And that's going to happen, you know, where you're like, I don't know. I'm going to add some more white to this and see if that makes me any happier. I'm also not liking that brush for this feather. All right, let's see what a little bit of blue will do. Maybe I'll like that better. Maybe I won't. Maybe I let it dry and I come back to it and I do something else with it. That's a distinct possibility. I just added a drop of water to that. One of the things I want to talk about is the fact that every piece of artwork that I've ever done has either gone through what I always call the ugly phase, or a piece of it has gone through just a weird phase where it's just like, oh, I don't like that. I don't like that at all. And in the early days, it would really worry me and make me kind of panicky, because I would think I wouldn't be able to fix it. And over time, as I did more and more artwork, I found, no, I could fix it. Almost always. Not always, but almost always. It was definitely possible to fix that. And so it's kind of nice that this feather is doing that, because that's what's happening here. I'm not happy with it. The great thing about paint is you can just keep layering it on. I think it's important to, it's kind of turning it green because I've been adding, that yellow paint is in there. And then I'm adding blue to it too. So anyway, it's kind of nice that this happened this way. I don't pre-plan out whatever colors I'm going to do. I just choose them as I go. So sometimes it works great, and other times it's like, oh God. I think I'm going to continue on this bent though. I think I'm losing some paint, so I'm going to have to add some more here in a minute. But I'm using this smaller brush because this feather is so small compared to the other ones. So anyway, the point being is that, that again, nothing is ever perfect. And this is just one layer of many, many layers. Well, not many, but layers. I say many, many layers because I think of my colored pencil artwork, and each portrait has many, many layers. It's like about 30 per piece of artwork. This is not going to do that. Oh yeah, this is really bugging the hell out of me. It's perfect. All right, more paint. I'm out of this blue almost. All right, one of the things you can do if you get to the point where you think, that's driving me nuts, is to stop working on it and go work on this one. And when you're done with this one and you want to go back and mess with this, go stick it in the oven. It'll dry really quick and it'll give you a break. Sometimes looking at it differently helps a lot. Giving yourself a little bit of time to get away from it. And I may be doing that in just a minute. Hopefully you're liking your little fat center feather a lot more than I am right now. Because it's bugging the hell out of me. Okay, I am going to leave that one alone because it's pissing me off. And I'm going to go on to this big one. This is going to be my purple feather. Go back to that big brush since I found I liked it so much. It's always good to be able to see. Oh, look. It's not just me, right? It's not just you as a new person who thinks, oh, I got it wrong. I got it wrong too. And in the end, it will be okay. We're going to give ourselves a little break from that spot right there. Move on to something else. Definitely want it to be a little darker. Add some more dark spots to it when I come back. And push down and push up. Push down here, go through, and then lift up at the ends. I don't know if you guys can see that part right there. It's interesting what the paint's doing. I think I'm going to let it be. Remember to keep following those guidelines with the curve. In the classes I've done so far, the people who are happiest with theirs followed those curves. All right. Okay. Add a little bit more dark, but I think I'm going to have to go back and do that after. And get the main color down. Makes you feel like you've accomplished something when you get the main part of it down. Okay, I'm almost out of paint, but I think that's going to be okay. So be careful when you come to this part right here. Make sure you go around it, because that's the other piece of this little feather in the center. So I'm going to leave this for the finer brush. This paint's interesting. I don't know if it's just this color or it's because I've added too much water, but it's also a little translucent, and I don't think, it's probably not the best quality either. All right, so rinse this out. So I'm going to use that fine brush and just go and fill in this piece here with that last little bit of paint. You don't have to be too perfect about it, because you can also, when you get to painting that centerpiece there, you can also cover up. Cover up that part too. So okay. Interesting. Oh, this is fun. Huh. And again, oh yeah, you can see it. Okay. See this part here? Oh, I like that. That was a kind of a happy coincidence. All right. So looking at this center feather here. So I've got a monitor here in front of me. That's what I'm looking at, what I'm staring at it. It gives me a different perspective, seeing it from a little bit of a distance. I really kind of wanted, originally I kind of wanted a light blue, a blue and white together. And so what I think I'm going to do for this is to blot this center feather and pick up any paint that's there. No, some, right? Let me try that again and get a little bit more. I want to smear it, but I want to pick it up because I had a lot of yellow paint. I still got a little bit more there. I had a lot of yellow paint in there, and I want to get rid of that. I want to get rid of any extra that's there because it's turning it kind of a green color, and I'm not happy with that. All right, so I'm going to go back to, this little brush and make sure that my paint is wet enough. The blue and the white, that's going to turn into, I don't know if you can see it, it's going to turn into light blue by itself, but that's okay. And then this blue, make sure it's got enough liquid in it. Okay. Ouch. Oh, that poked me. All right. So I'm going to try this again. And I'm going to keep my hand off of this because that is very wet. I don't know if you can see that, but it's damp. So I'm just going to be careful. I could also go and stick it in the oven and dry it off, but I'm not going to do that right now. I'm going to see if I can get this done. So this part of the video is finished and we can move on to the next part after. I'm going to mix some blue and white together here because the majority of it I just want it to be light blue. Okay, that's better. So if you've gotten an ugly part on yours, it's not that big of a deal. You can go back and fix it. Try to somewhat remember the shape that you should be, that curve. And hopefully you all are just painting along with me. All right, that's good enough for now. I'm going to go on to the flip side of this feather. I think I'm going to make it a little bit darker. I wonder if it would at all be helpful for you to have a fast forward part, you know? You've seen videos like that where they're painting along this part that's kind of slow, you know, because the person's actually doing it. So would it be helpful? You guys tell me after you've seen this one, since you guys are my guinea pigs. Would it be helpful for or less annoying or whatever the word is, for the parts of the video where I'm just painting and you're painting. If I just fast forward, if I, zoom through it. So on the actual video that you guys would get, if you saw a sped up version of this part, and you can just pause and work. Or do you prefer it where we're kind of working at the same pace? Tell me what you think. And this part is the piece that I was telling you about. You don't have to be too specific when you're painting this, because you're going to go back over it with the blue or whatever color your center feather is. The only shape I have on this is just kind of a curve, a curve like this to follow the feather. It doesn't have that same curve that the other part of the feather does. Okay. All right. That is good enough for right now. I think I'm going to go back and add, let's see, do I have, what color is that? I think I'm going to go back and add some more purple to this feather. It ended up being such an interesting, it ended up being very strange with the way the paint looked. I'm still kind of curious about that. But it definitely is somewhat translucent. And we will see if that is a paint, that's the way the paint is itself, or if that is because I've added, a fair amount of water to it. Not all paint does that. I'm going to go back over top of these lines, these guidelines. To make sure they get covered. I don't want to see them through the painting. Again, following the same shape. I'm going to leave some of these places because I like how they turned out. Oh, got water on my face now. Here, this is another start of one. I just like the way it looks, so I'm going to leave that. Just wanted it to be a little bit darker and to cover up those guides. Well, I can tell you I really hate that color. That center feather is giving me fits, man. Okay, all right. Okay, all right, that's good enough for that purple one for sure. And I don't know about that blue one. I just don't know, you guys. Not sure what I think about that. Maybe it will grow on me. Maybe it won't. If it doesn't, then I'll mess with it next time. All right, so not too bad. We're at hour and 15 for this first piece. I'll let you play around with yours, and we're going to, I'll show you what the next steps are in the next video. I'm going to see how long it takes to upload this hour and see if I feel like, oh no, I could upload, you know, several hours of video all at once. I don't really know yet. I see more guidelines over here. I won't have it. All right. Okay. So this gives you a good start, and I will be adding more to it in probably tomorrow. All righty. See you soon. Bye.